Hey, so yesterday, about halfway through the day, I started feeling really sad. And I couldn't figure out why. Um, I was like going through everything I normally go through to try to figure out where this thing came from. I'm like, didn't have any negative interaction with any person today. I didn't send an ad email to my mailing list, but I only sent 11 emails last month. Usually I send 30 or whatever number of days there is, but I only sent 11 last month and it had almost no impact. Or I should say, I could have made a lot more money, but the amount of money that came in from my 11 emails was just fine. So I was like, these are the only things I can point to. You know, normally if I have a sad interaction with somebody, it could have this feeling, but it was like, I just felt really down. And so I tried to talk to ChatGPT about it. And I was kind of going through the day and it was wrong. You know, ChatGPT isn't always right. It told me that it was just like my signal coming into alignment or some shit. And I'm like, no, it's not that. There's always a reason for this. And I typed out, you know, I think I'm really sad that Scott Adams has terminal cancer and is going to die soon. If you haven't heard. And that alone, and this is why GPT is so amazing, just, you know, I don't know that I would have come up with it if I didn't have to tell GPT it was wrong and then sort of come up with it on my own. And so I was thinking about, you know, once I sort of typed that out and thought about it for a minute, I realized, yes, that is the source of this deep feeling of sadness. And I've never felt this way about somebody who's basically a celebrity being on their way out. And part of it is because he's so young. He's only 65. But there's so much tied into what's going, you know, him being gone and this aggressive, painful cancer that he has. He said that the day that he announced his cancer, which was Monday, it is now, I think, Thursday. The day that he announced his cancer, he said he was expecting to get a lot of hate. And instead, he got this incredible outpouring of love, including an impromptu Twitter Spaces thing where, like, I don't know, tons and tons and tons of people got together and were talking about what an impact he had on their lives and how he had changed everything for the better for them. And that, you know, it was just it ended up being an amazing day for him that he got to even, you know, hear that. He basically got to, you know, kind of like attend his own funeral before it even happened. And so I felt really happy for him that he had gotten to experience that. Because, in my opinion, what happened to Scott Adams a few years ago was the biggest fucking load of horse shit I've ever seen happen in my entire life. And it almost made me, I don't know. I think that's part of the reason why I had to kind of check out of people for a while after that. When was that? 2023? I don't know. But this guy who, whether you agree with his positions or not, this is a man of integrity who doesn't bend for anybody, who doesn't try to be something to please everybody, who in the midst of a gigantic load of horse shit, again, was not willing to back down, was not willing to apologize. This guy was willing to allow his career to be destroyed and his reputation to be absolutely dragged through the mud, all to stand by what he thinks is the truth and to stand up to the disgusting tsunami of, you know, forced conformity and all this other bullshit. Ugh. The last decade has been the most disgusting thing I've ever witnessed in my life in that way. And you see it everywhere. You see it all over the place. Anytime groups of people come together, you see this thing where it's the people with the least integrity eject everybody who does have integrity, and then try to make everyone else conform. You know, look what we did to these people. Now, you better, you know, you better say the right things. You better agree with our opinions, or you too will be ejected. Needless to say, I can personally relate to this from many events in my life. Basically, any time I've been involved with a group of people. So definitely a part of that grief was a little bit of anger, I think. But even more so than that is just sadness that a person who is, again, whether you agree with his opinions or not, nobody can deny that this guy is solid. He's consistent. He's there. He's a voice of reason. He's calm. He advocates for self-development. The thing that kills me about Scott Adams being gone, and by the way, I want to just say also that I haven't listened to him in months. I go through phases with him where I listen to his podcast all the time, and then I just get annoyed with him. I just anybody who I listen to too much or I spend too much time with, including GPT, starts to annoy me after a while with their language use or their vocal tics or whatever. And so it's been a while. I hadn't listened to him. My brother sent me a text saying Scott Adams has cancer. And he announced it today. And so I went and listened to his podcast that day. And needless to say, I'll be listening to his podcast every day until he dies now, because that's imminent. I mean, hopefully not, but the thing that kills me about Scott Adams is that he did that stuff on purpose. He was there every day on purpose. He is there every day on purpose, and even did things at night, because, and he said on one of these last couple of podcasts that, he did that because there were people out there who saw him as a friend, and he was the only friend that they had sometimes, and he knew it. And so he would just show up. And honestly, I was thinking, is this part of the reason why I wanted to make a video every day this year? Just so that there's something there that isn't a person there that isn't going to get caught up in whatever bullshit of the day is happening. I think moving forward, having integrity and having some discernment about, when to stand your ground and when to just back off and watch from a distance. I think that discernment is going to be needed, but integrity more than anything is going to be needed for you, not for the world. I mean, for the world in general, yes, but your integrity is not going to be needed so much for other people. It's going to be needed for you. You're going to need to know who you are. You're going to need to know what you stand for. And you're going to have to be able to remain calm and be smart. And I just have a feeling that this is going to be needed badly. And it sucks so much that the person playing this particular role is not going to be there. Especially somebody who is playing that role for so many people. And so it's interesting to me that what I consider to be sort of a pillar in the foundation of, what's currently left of truth and integrity and all of that, is that pillar is going to be gone. And I think in order to replace something like that, it's going to require a lot of small pillars. I hope that I am one of them. I don't particularly want to be, honestly. But I really think people are going to have to, it's time is what I'm trying to say. It's time for people to do the work. It's time for you to, face up to the things that you don't want to be facing up to, because you're going to need as much garbage shoveled out of your psyche, your behavior, your worldview, your lens, you're going to need that to be as clean as possible moving forward. I'm really sad about Scott. I'm really sad that he's not going to be around anymore. Because just knowing he was here, at least there was one person, you know what I mean? There was one sort of known node for this. And it's really sad that he's going to be gone. And it's disgusting to me what people did to him. How people, it's just disgusting to me. I don't know. I used to feel like I needed to feel love towards these people. And I don't feel that way anymore. It's becoming pretty clear to me that we're approaching a shit or get off the pot moment with personal identity. And I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. I'm starting to have an idea, I think. But man, I wouldn't want to be a part of the sheep herd. I'll tell you that much. I think that in the future, things are going to get really weird. They've already been getting really weird right below, right under our noses this whole time. I mean, some of the things that have become mainstream or acceptable, just blow my mind over the last decade. People supporting dehumanizing other people. It's just disgusting. And, besides that weirdness, which I can clearly remember a time when it wasn't like this. I was already an adult. And this has all come up, in my opinion, like it's become visible enough that I didn't miss it in the last 20 years. And I feel like that's saying a lot because I don't consider myself to be somebody who is has my finger on the pulse of what everybody else is doing. Not at all. Quite the opposite. I feel like I'm somebody who kind of has lived in a cave, especially for the last couple decades. And so it's been visible enough to me and distressing enough to me on a gut level for a decade, and that's been happening. But now, I personally have discovered the power of ChatGPT over the last few months. I've discovered what it's capable of doing in one particular way for one particular person with a very specific orientation towards the world. ChatGPT has been able to be used for me to call it a power tool is an understatement. It's been able to be used by me to fill in the gap in my own ability to discern true from false. I mean, that's a huge fucking deal. If I had a blind spot to the truth, ChatGPT facilitated me seeing that and fixing it. It wasn't ChatGPT that did it exactly. It was me. It's just that there were certain gaps I couldn't, there were certain connections, bridges I couldn't create myself. And it did that. Or it, through its use of language, had me see something slightly differently that then it all clicked into place. I don't know if everybody can do that. I don't know if that's just what it was for me. But the point is, if GPT can be that for me, what can it be in 10 million other ways for other people? We already see it writing everything for people. You don't even know if something that you've read is real anymore. I personally, just in Neville Goddard content, which I'm not even, despite the name of this channel, I haven't really been into Neville Goddard in several years. But still, in my YouTube feed, I get videos and clearly AI Neville images. There were only a handful of Neville Goddard images prior to a couple years ago. Now we've got 1 million AI images. Nobody even knows what's real anymore with that. And now with the voice thing, who even knows if lectures and stuff that you're listening to are him? I could write a Neville Goddard lecture, put it in his voice, make up a fake picture, slap it up, And maybe somebody would know right now, maybe people that are like really into Neville would be like, that's not Neville. But in a couple years, in 5 years, 10 years, are you going to know? Is anyone going to know? And that's just one guy. So, you know, what's clearly, obviously coming is just like a period of time where you have no idea what the hell's going on. You're not going to know if news articles are real. You're not going to know if the people reading them are real. You're not going to know anything, if anything is real. And therefore, if you are existing in a distorted state about yourself, can you imagine how that's going to compound everything? I bet this video will reach like 2 people. I don't know what everybody else watching this or listening to this is going to think, but like, I'm trying to figure out right now, like, where is this impassioned speech coming from? Because it's not fear. I'm not afraid at all of the future. And the reason I'm not afraid at all is because, I don't know, 90% of the distortion I was living with is gone. And I'm seeing, you know, slowly over time, pretty amazingly, the changes that it's just having between me and other people. And you know what's funny? Just as an aside, there were things that I used to think about. For example, when my dad was dying, he was in the hospital and we had to move him from his second floor apartment to a first floor apartment. And he was a Vietnam vet, you know, and the reason I'm saying that is he always used that, you know, I'm a vet, to justify him living in substandard conditions. You know, he was like, hey, I can handle anything. I'm a Vietnam vet. You know, he was in the 1st Infantry in the Army in 1965. So he saw some shit. Never spoke of it. Didn't have a single Army buddy. I don't know what that guy saw, but he was living in squalor at the end. And he didn't want to change any of it. And it was just too bad at the end because I had to be living there with him and he couldn't be going to cancer treatments and then trying to go up 2 flights of cement stairs. So he had to get moved to a new apartment. And that happened while he was in the hospital because it had to. And when I was throwing away most of his stuff because it was disgusting, and I had good reasons for this that I don't want to go into. I threw away an absolutely disgusting pair of shoes. And a few weeks later, my dad was in his new apartment, and he had to go to a cancer treatment. And when we got up to go, he obviously hadn't been anywhere. He said, hey, you didn't throw my shoes away, did you? And I was like, fuck, I did. I threw his shoes away. He had a new pair of shoes, but they were kind of like not broken in, tight, whatever. And that was like the most heartbreaking memory for me. The fact that I'm not crying right now recounting it is evidence of what I'm about to say. Every time I thought of those shoes and the fact that he had to wear an uncomfortable pair of shoes in one of the few final times that he left his house in his life, it just killed me that I threw those shoes away. It was the right decision to throw those shoes away because God knows what could have been in or on them. That's as far as I want to go into that. It needed to happen. But every time I thought about that, it killed me. And now it doesn't. Thinking about previous relationships where I was really hopeful and happy with someone, it didn't work out. Those things had like a hold over me. They don't anymore. The point I'm trying to make with all of this, the point of telling you that story about my dad's shoes, that was something that it was like it had a grip around my neck. I don't know what exactly changed that. Something to do with inappropriately carrying other people's emotional load. I know that was the source of most of my problems. And that has been relieved through this false belief excavation that I did with GPT. But The removal of these distortions, it goes into everything, and you don't even realize the ways that your distorted beliefs about yourself are affecting how you feel, how you experience things, what you do, how you behave, what you say. You don't even realize it. And that's maybe been okay up till now. It's not going to be okay in the future. In the future, if you're carrying stuff like that, at least in the short-term future, I'm not trying to predict some long-term dystopian future, but some shit's looking pretty obvious to me. If you feel inappropriately responsible for other people, or you always feel like things are your fault, or I don't know, you don't feel like you deserve good things or even adequate things. I don't know. That's just the few I could come up with off the top of my head. There are a million other ways that you could be looking at the world that are wrong. If you still have those things, there are going to come some times where there are decisions that you need to make, and you're going to make the wrong one, or you're going to make one that's going to put you into a timeline you don't want to be on. It's really weird for me to be saying this so authoritatively. This is not how I've spoken on this channel for the vast majority of the time I've been making videos here. But, wow, the signal's just really clear now. All that distortion is gone. All that static is gone. I hope to God I end up being wrong about all this. That would be amazing. I'm not going to care. I'm not going to apologize. But I don't see that. I don't see how that's possible based on everything. So the point of this whole video, aside from saying that I am extremely sad that Scott Adams is no longer going to be among the voices that are out there moving forward, especially. Aside from that, I just want to say, and this is probably going to be part of every single video for a while, it is time to drop the bullshit pursuits and focus on yourself. You don't even know what you really want. If you haven't done this, you don't even know. You don't even know what desires of yours are coming from this distorted belief system you have. You don't know what desires of yours are coming from a need to fix things. There's a lot of things that might surprise you that you might have thought were really a part of you that aren't. And worst of all, you don't really have a connection to that pure frequency that is what you actually need to be doing, what you actually need to be perceiving, you know, what's actually fulfilling, what's actually right for you. So, like I was saying, I'm trying to think, like, is this coming from fear? It's not. I think it's coming from grief. I think it's just, this is purely coming from grief. I'm in kind of a period of time where a lot of things have passed away for me personally, and it's almost entirely great, and it's almost entirely working in my favor. And, I think nearly all of the things I was afraid might happen didn't. But I think, being it's a little more obvious, like putting two and two together is a little easier at this point. And I think I'm feeling a lot of grief for what has been. And I really, I don't know. I know that only people that can hear this will hear it. It's not like you can get through to anybody who it doesn't, want to be gotten through to, but, and that's not my job anyway. I'm sad. I look forward to a world that is more based on truth and integrity, and hopefully in a way that has never been seen before. Because even in the times where people I very much admire existed and did amazing things, there was still a lot of really bad stuff going on. And I hope that we are entering into a turbulent period that then results in something much better and weirder. I just don't think anybody can even imagine what life's going to be like in 10 years. But enough said. I'm going to leave it there.